Welcome, everyone, to the Observation Deck podcast, where we take a deeper look at the unknown. I am Captain Ron, and up next we have Alan Steinfeld. Alan's a writer, producer, speaker in the fields of human potential, metaphysics, conscious evolution, healing, creativity, spiritual awakening, and cosmic intelligences. The host and producer of the hugely popular YouTube channel called New Realities. Been a staple in our community for many years, and I always personally love seeing him live at all the conferences back when we had such things and we were able to do that, of course. And now he's added a new thing. He is now an author as he's put together an amazing book called Making Contact. Hey, Alan, how you doing?
Oh, it's always good to hang out with you virtually, live, and wherever else we might be. Astrally, let's try our astral interview next time. But yes, I have a new book, Making Contact, with our favorite people, if you can see that. Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, John Mack. I got an unpublished essay from the man himself, even though he's no longer with us, John Mack, Darryl Anka, Nick Pope, Grant Cameron, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Carolyn Cory, Marie Rodwell, and a good friend of mine, Henrietta Weekes, all in this new hardcover book that is a good intro to the whole phenomena. If your friends don't know anything you're talking about, give them this book, Ron, and maybe they'll understand you.
It's incredible. It's such a great idea. I think it was brilliant the way you compiled this. Let's start right there real quick, if you don't mind. I love John Mack. I read both his books on this topic, and I think he's incredible. How did you pull together an unpublished article? Well, you went to the dead. How did you pull this off?
Well, I knew John. Actually, I have a picture of us together I could pull up if you want to see me and John in the day drinking coffee together. I knew John because, I've been involved with this since, whenever, the mid-'80s. I was a UFO hunter, and anyone who knew anything about it. So I knew Bud Hopkins in New York, or he went to the Intruder Foundation, and John Mack would, even though he was living in Cambridge, he would come to New York and give lectures, and we hung out. We went to dinner, not just me and him, but a bunch of people. He became a sort of friend. He knew who I was, and I knew his organization, the Peer Group. What is it? Program for Extra something Review. Peer, P-E-E-R. So I knew his archivist there, William Boucher. And when John died, I went to John's memorial, actually, which was quite beautiful and quite a tribute to the man. There was lots of great outpouring of poetry and sentiment. It was at Harvard, actually, the memorial. Wow. And I just started to stay in contact with his people. And when the opportunity to write this book with a collection of our favorite people came up, I reached out to Will, who I knew was the archivist there. And I heard an audio tape of a talk John gave in 1995 that was never published. It was transcribed, and John had updated the transcription in an essay form, but it was never published. I think there was a little piece of it in a MUFON magazine, but never in book form. I asked Will, who then asked Danny Mack, John's oldest son, who was really in charge of the archives, and they said, sure. And this is when there was a lot of talk about John Mack. There's a new book out by Ralph Blumenthal, which is a really tell-all biography. Have you interviewed Ralph yet?
No, but I do know him, and I have heard him on Coast, and I've heard, it's fantastic.
I did a really good interview with Ralph, too, and we went really deep into what really made John tick. And the best thing about this particular essay, he talks about worldviews. And he says in this essay in particular in this book, if we're going to understand the phenomena, we need other ways of knowing. We can't understand it with our left brain. We need to understand it with a kind of quantum approach. We need to understand with more right brain. And that really has to do with this understanding of the subjective reality that the right brain in quantum physics talks about, the observer effect. And what I say is that the phenomena, taking John's kind of lead, is a subjective effect. It is based on not collapsing the wave function. If you know what quantum physics is all about, it means that It means when you say something is this, when you're looking for the results, the wave function of possibilities collapses, and it's that thing. But if you keep everything in superposition without collapsing the wave function, without defining it as this, then there's many loopholes through time and space that are possible. And
Isn't that Schrodinger's cat?
What's that?
Isn't that Schrodinger's cat? Where
Yes,
the cat is both
exactly.
alive and dead.
Schrodinger's cat, though, is just the infancy of understanding the quantum mind. I think what the ETs do, if that's what they are, is use consciousness with variables of quantum possibility to move from here to there outside of time and space, because they keep everything in superposition. And boom, if everything is possible, you can go from here to there, but in a thought. And I think that, we're not sophisticated at this level to understand the ramifications of quantum mechanics in terms of travel and thought and consciousness. But Luis Alessandro did hint at this on the debrief. He said the phenomena is now quantum physics. So this is a doorway, and I think John sort of prophesized that in a way.
What a score to get that. I mean, I really think that's incredible. And you also got a foreword by George Noory. How cool is that?
The man himself, the guy who's the king of the podcast, the king. Really, George, I knew George too. When you're hanging out at these conferences and just soaking up the information, and that's why I would go to these conferences. I mean, I was one of the MCs at Contact in the Desert, which is still going to be the best show that anyone can go to. But I would go there and get to know these people personally, because I felt they were some of the most intelligent, dynamic, interesting people pursuing a phenomena that had no definite boundaries. This is what the UFO world is about. No one knows the answers. It's a huge mystery, but it's the most exciting thing happening on the planet, right, Ron?
Right, no doubt.
So why not talk about that? Why not talk to the people who devoted their lives to this? And, I got to know them and hang out, go to dinner, because I liked these people. We had a lot in common. I had UFO experiences I wanted to share and understand, really. That's why I first met Bud Hopkins and John Mack and all the people, because what had happened to me, I mean, it was just a typical abduction, if there is such a thing. But I wanted to meet the people who knew something and understand their perspective. And I realized no one had the whole truth. No one had the whole answer. That is why there's 11 different essays in this book, in order for the reader to decide what's really going on, because no one really knows. And that's the problem with the government. If I'm talking too much, just let me know, okay?
No.
So I think this is what we're coming up to in June with the disclosure mandate, that they're hedging their bets because they, meaning the government, do not know how to explain this phenomena. At least they're calling it a phenomena. They went from UFO to UAPs because UFOs just meant objects. UAPs implies there's a phenomena which impacts consciousness. So, but they don't know how to explain it. That's my guess. They don't know what's going on, and that's what's been hedging their bets since Roswell for the last, 77 years or whatever it's been.
You said that nobody really knows what this is. I think it was Whitley, said that if you meet somebody and they tell you they understand what's going on, they don't.
Well, you know what's interesting? Richard Feynman said the same thing about quantum physics. If someone tells you they know what quantum physics is about, they don't. So it's interesting. And this is what I'm going to be lecturing on at Contact in the Desert, the triangulation between quantum physics, UFOs, and consciousness. If we take all those three and look for the similarities, we might get a handle on what the phenomena could imply in terms of consciousness, in terms of how whoever this is out there manipulating craft and reality and consciousness itself. That's my guess.
You feel like you've got 11 different viewpoints here talking about the same topic. Do you align with certain ones more than others? Do you feel like you kind of...
Well, that's a really good question. Yeah, I wanted, well, first, the commonality in 10 out of the 11 essays is the mention of telepathy. So the person who starts off the volume and who doesn't mention telepathy is Nick Pope. Nick Pope, I'm sure you've interviewed him many times. He was the former worked for the Ministry of Defense in the UK investigating UFOs, and he takes a really hardline stance as a government insider. He says, this is why government's not talking about it. And he says, because they want to hold on to the technology. They have their own objectives here. And he says in this chapter, he says, I must be the villain in the book. This is what he says about himself, because everyone else says, no, come on, tell us, let's find out. And Nick's saying, not so fast. The government has its reasons for not telling us what's going on. And I really don't align with that. I think if we knew the truth, if government came out with it, there'd be a lot of confusion. There'd be a lot of upset. But at least we wouldn't be, as Linda Moulton Howe says, an abused and enslaved race. And that's what we are if we don't know the truth.
Well, how do you sit with disclosure? You mentioned that we have supposedly some sort of release coming from the Pentagon in June. Do you think there'll be anything, or are they going to just kick the can further down the road and it'll be nothing?
No, I mean, if you listen to Christopher Mellon, I think it was on Tucker Carlson about 2 weeks ago, he hinted or even said out loud, there's going to be some stupendous acknowledgement in this upcoming report. And, they're hinting that, Luis Elizondo said, well, what's out there in these UFOs that we've seen is not from any country we know. That's like saying, well, it's not from this planet, but he doesn't say it's not from this planet. It's just saying it's not from this country. So I think we are going to get revelations. We're not going to get it on the level of possibility we're hoping for, but I think we're going to push the envelope a little further down the street.
I hope so. I feel like I'm always disappointed every time I get excited about one of these kind of...
No, I think there are some positive aspects. I think we're going to break new ground. We're going to wake up some people. So I'm positive. I'm feeling positive about what's going to be coming forward. And I think it's a good thing.
The fact that they've acknowledged the last few videos, these Navy videos that they acknowledge, and they say that they were unknown, that's a huge leap that we never had till now.
Right. Exactly. And the Navy's saying UFOs are real. They're not saying what UFOs are. And, there was a newscaster who said up until December 16th, 2017, it was okay to call anyone who believed in UFOs a crackpot. That was on national television. And he said, now let's see what's really going on. There really is something going on. And we're so close. We need Contact in the Desert, everyone at Contact in the Desert to stand up and say, we demand the truth. This could be the biggest, most important social action movement in the history of the world, more than, women's liberation, all that, I think.
Life itself, it's insane. So let me ask you this. You've looked at these 11. Obviously, you've been in this many years. Where do you sit with all this? What do you think that's happening? Like, what do you think the goal is? Some people say they want our souls. Some people they want to come help and save us. Some say they want to, work with us to achieve, so that we can achieve ascension to become them. There's a whole gamut. Where do you sit personally?
All those are, well, not great. Those are the honest truth is that nobody knows what it's really. I'll tell you where I sit with it, but just to make that clear. When somebody says they want this, or this is being filtered through their human awareness. Nobody really knows what's going on, who's here, what they want, what they want from us. We can guess, can feel into it, we can hypothesize. My feeling is they're not going to save us from ourselves, from the mess we created. They're not here to invade. If they wanted to, they would have done that already, unless they've already invaded our minds, which some people think the archons have done. I think they're here, and I'll quote John Mack again, as an outreach program from the cosmos for the consciously impaired. That's us. We don't know who we are and how to use our consciousness to make peace with the fellow creatures on the planet. They want us, I'm like one of these people now guessing, they want us to be at peace, to clean up the planet, live in harmony, and go to the next level of why we incarnated in the first place. It's to raise consciousness to a new vibration. We are stuck in this tribal warfare that really hasn't progressed in 5,000-10,000 years. I mean, maybe a little bit now because everyone's been stuck at home. Maybe that was a way of clearing the cobwebs. But I think, and I quote Bruce Lipton. You know who Bruce Lipton is?
I know the name.
Bruce Lipton is someone I interviewed. He talks about the higher levels of evolution. And he says, we are not humans until we create humanity. This is when we all recognize we're all cells in the same living organism, and we can work together in a cohesive fashion. Then this being of consciousness, humanity, is complete. And when humanity is complete, the earth as an organism completes a level of sentient evolution. We are the sentient beings for the earth, or even though the earth is sentient on its own. And we are the receptor sites bringing in new information from the cosmos to the planet to evolve. So when we come together as humanity with a single voice, with a voice that allows us to speak as other ones, this is Bruce Lipton, when we speak as a singular entity, in a sense, like all the cells of your body are coming together to form your consciousness right now, the single entity of Ron, Captain Ron, or whoever you are. But that's a singularity of awareness. When we all come together and form a singularity of awareness as a single being, that will allow us to speak to other ones out there. That's evolution. That's the foundation of evolution. Single cells come together to form colonies of cells. When the colonies start to cohere together, they share their awareness to form what's called a synergy of awareness. They become one organism. Many cells, instead of becoming a colony, become a multicellular organism with a singularity of consciousness. We really are all connected as different parts of the same being, but we think we're separate. When we start to share awareness and form a synergy of singularities, this is where we really start making contact.
I have heard people say that what you just said is actually written in ancient texts too.
This is not new. The ancients knew we were part of the cosmos, right?
That's it's astonishing. I feel like there's been this arc where over the last couple decades where it was like this phenomenon in general, UFOs and ET contact, was sort of a nuts and bolts thing. Oh, they're flying from another planet here, they're landing in the woods and doing these things. Then it kind of became a sort of an interdimensional thing. Well, maybe they're in another dimension, another plane, another vibration. And then now the talk is all more like it's consciousness, kind of like what you're talking about. Maybe it's just consciousness like that.
Yeah, maybe it's an aspect. I mean, I just had an interview with Grant Cameron from my YouTube channel, New Realities. He said maybe they're not aliens at all. Maybe what we're calling the phenomena is the latest kind of reiteration of a mythic projection. Maybe they're, and Jung said this, a part of our projection of our greater self, our greater mind. And I think there probably is more truth to that than the idea that we're being visited or invaded. I think these beings, whatever they are an aspect of us, an aspect of the consciousness we have yet to realize. So we're much more complex beings than anyone has ever told us, and we've been dumbed down. We don't even realize that we're in this individual place, but we're really non-local. I teach remote viewing, and it's like 80% of the people can get a target that's not local. They can see with this higher sense of self. They're opening up the higher conscious mind. And I think this is what the phenomena is pushing us to realize, that it's all consciousness and it's all somehow a part of us. We are connected to this greater reality.
It very well could be. And it's interesting that the way you said that we could be just calling it aliens or ET or whatever. It's like throughout history, humanity tries to explain things. Oh, the volcano went off because the sun gods sent it off. Well, maybe now today we're not knowing how to define this connection of consciousness, so we're calling it ET.
Yes, exactly. We are calling it ET, but it's really nothing we can imagine. It's nothing we know. So before, they've called it fairies and devils and demons, because that was the mythos of the time. We're calling those ETs. But what if this was something else that we don't even have a concept about, don't even have a sense of reality? 100 years ago, people would have no sense that you could hold a little device in your hand.
Right, it has everything, yeah.
And so we have yet to evolve to what this could be. One of my favorite sayings of Terence McKenna, do you know Terence?
Of course.
Said the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. So
awesome.
Right. I think he borrowed that from Bell's theorem, but still, that's where I'm going with this. We keep expanding. I think there's another quote by R.D. Laing. He said, yesterday the universe was a machine. Today it's a hologram. Who knows what rattle will shake at tomorrow's world? So it's like we're evolving to understand a greater reality. Yes, the world is no longer a machine we're winding up. Of course, some people still believe in the second law of thermodynamics, but the world is not running down. It's getting more complex, I think. I'm building towards a oneness. But what do we not know? We have to put out that possibility. We are not the smartest guys on the block. We don't have the answers. And this phenomena is showing us that it's time to go to another level where we could project a new possibility of the unknown and evolve consciousness. That's my guess.
I love it. I want to make another comment about your book too. I love how you have the asterisk on there, how you said that that's a symbol. That's so cool.
This is how they speak. Did I write that in the questions? I think I sent you questions about that, because someone picks that up. They speak in symbols, the ETs. At least this is what I gather. They don't speak in words as we know it. They speak in a quantum language. So symbols are different than signs. Symbols mean many different things. When you see a sign, a stop sign, you know what that means. If you put that stop sign in a painting, then that stop sign becomes a symbol with a cluster of meanings. So the asterisk, what does that mean to you when you see that asterisk?
Well, an asterisk, always means to look deeper for more. You go down to the bottom of the page and there's more. So I feel like there's more to this than you would think in making contact.
Exactly. It also means a star. It also means a distant star. It also means a point of contact. That asterisk is the point contact. And what's the point of contact, right? What's the point? Point is that the universe is symbolic and much more abstract than words, and linear reality can make sense of. So we have to apprehend a sense of awareness, not comprehend it. You know, that's the difference. Apprehension versus comprehension. When we comprehend something, we collapse the wave function. You say, this is it. When
No,
you, right? When you apprehend it, there's a cluster of meanings that are possible. And this is the level I think the phenomena exists on.
It's great. I think it's a great idea for a book. I love this whole thing. While I have you, I want to take a second. You and I, last few times I've seen you, we end up talking a little bit about remote viewing. It seemed like you were getting more and more on that. Now that you've had this year off during the pandemic, did you delve into RV? Did you explore?
Absolutely.
What's going on with that?
I taught a remote viewing class for 150 people on Portal to Ascension.
Awesome.
I mean, and people loved it because it's about what I'm saying. You just said about the Astros. You have to think with the right side of your brain. It's I might write a book about called Seeing in the Dark. So we see things. You see a tree and you think you know what a tree is. But when you label something, you're really not seeing it. All you're seeing is a semantic overlay of this projection. When you remote view something, could be a tree, you're not naming it. You're not confining it to a thing. You're seeing its essence. You're feeling it. You're sensing into it, its purpose, its existence, maybe its colors, but you're not concretizing it as a reality. And this is right brain seeing. And this is what we need with remote viewing. When you can see more with your right brain than saying, oh yeah, I know what's out there, then you start to be able to function and think non-locally. And I think this is directly related to these ETs, whatever these beings are, is that level of awareness. You know, I've never said that before. Thanks for the opportunity of making that happen.
I think so. Did you say you had an 80% success rate where 80% of the people that do these classes are able to get a hit that's accurate?
Yeah, I would say 80% of the people, maybe even 90%. And sometimes we do, and I actually have an ongoing class. If people want to know about that, they can email me at newrealities@earthlink.net where we're practicing. You know, I give people coordinates. I say, okay, it's CRV 9250. And people tune into those numbers and everyone gets an aspect of the picture. Okay, for instance, I put a number on an event. I said, okay, this is an event. That's all the front loading I'm doing. And what is it? Everyone got something like American flags, a parade, people gathering.
4th of July.
Some were sad, some were happy. And I would say 95% of people got some kind of gathering. Some said it wasn't happy. And what it was, you know what it was?
4th of July.
What?
4th of July.
Close, but it was an event.
Oh.
And I didn't say it was a historic event, but it was a historic event. It was the Kennedy assassination. It was Kennedy in the car in Dallas right before he got shot. And people got aspects of this. Some people felt weird. Everyone got a different piece of the target. So I sometimes say, let's put all this together and we get the target. Like, you know, if everyone in the class saw a movie and told me what the movie was about, they would focus on different things.
Sure,
this is right. So this is the same thing with remote viewing. Whatever aspect of your consciousness is aligned to features of the target, that is what speaks strongest to you. So I would say this Kennedy assassination target, people were pretty close. It was, I mean, I was just amazed.
That's incredible. Now, how is your RV skills developed? Are you getting stronger at this? Is it improve? Is it like anything else? You get better as you do it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a muscle. The biggest thing in RV is to separate the noise from the signal. And that's the biggest thing for me. So it's like, I can never, if someone gives me a name, I can never get the picture of what that person's like. Other people can. My mind makes too many quick associations. But if you said, okay, what's this object in my pocket, or there's a picture in the envelope, or even, you're going to love this, Ron, people can remote view a target before the target's even picked out. They did this at the Stanford Research Institute, and Hal Puthoff was going to a target, and I think it was Pat Price, if you know the famous.
Pat Price is the best one, they said.
Pat Price was in the office with Russell Targ, and Hal Puthoff's out in the car somewhere around San Francisco, driving around looking for the perfect place. Pat Price says to Russell Targ, "I'm hungry. Let's go to lunch. I know where they're going to be." He makes this drawing. And then 2 hours later, Hal Puthoff finds the place that he didn't even know he was going to be at when Pat Price did the drawing. And
that's crazy. That takes it another level. That's not just non-locality. That's also predictability. That is.
It really is like that. So I did an experiment in a class of mine where I said, okay, let's draw a picture of where my friend Henrietta is going to be in 2 hours. I said, okay, you go out into the city and you look at an object, but we're going to draw it now. So I got these like round sort of circles. I didn't know what they were, but I said, take a picture with your cell phone. So everyone in the class does that. She comes back with this picture of this tree stump that had some of these round circles in it. I didn't get the whole target, but my remote viewing is more outlining the target in a bit. I need to go more into it. And Lynn Buchanan teaches a great course right now, anyone can go to, on controlled remote viewing. I took some of those classes, and he says you have to keep doing it. You have to, and this is something that we're going to follow up in my class. Remote viewing, you get a flash, but then you have to go into the flash of that target, and you should be able to write 10 pages on the target you're remote viewing. Its color, its feeling, its sensing, its location. Are there biological beings there? Are there machines there? That should all come to you as you go deeper and deeper into the target. Are you noticing any AOLs? That means analytical overlays, where your mind is projecting associations onto the target. He says sometimes those associations are correct and sometimes they're just in left field, but you have to notice what is an AOL and what is not. And this is a muscle, and there's people who really work out. There's some incredible remote viewers out there. I would say I'm not beginner and I'm more intermediate, but the more you do it, the more you start to actually understand how your right brain sees and feels reality. And that is also a cue to how the UFOs, the ETs, whatever those beings are trying to communicate with us, not in linear fashion, but in non-linear fashion, like the asterisks.
Seeing how they could be tied together. Yes, that's incredible. I think Russell Targ once said how even somebody that knew nothing, that they were shocked after Ingo Swann would do these amazing things. He had his friend do it who had no idea about this, and she was instantly able to do it. That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's amazing, but it's also not amazing. You see, the subtext of my book is that we all have this fantastic consciousness that we have yet to utilize. We're all non-local beings. We all have this capacity to be psychic, telepathic, intuitive, because we actually are already non-local. We think you're in that body, and you are, but you're just really receiving. Your brain is a receiver and sender of consciousness. So you think you're Ron. I don't know if you do think you're Ron, but maybe you're just receiving the signal of Ron into this vehicle. And channeling's really big, and maybe you could just switch the signal and pick up another station. I mean, this is what channels do.
Incredible. I love when these hard science guys like Russell Targ, for example, and these other guys, they do think all of this is non-local.
It's all consciousness. Max Planck said that the universe looks more like a conscious being than a machine. I mean, this is where quantum physics was going in the early days. I mean, there was some resistance from Einstein, but it seems like reality is subjective. Thoughts are things. If I sent, you can feel sometimes when someone's going to call, or if there's negative thoughts, or you walk into a room where people had an argument. It's like we are much more sensitive than we give ourselves credit for, and we have to develop the mechanism of awareness that hones this sensitivity to these gifts that each of us have. And that's where we're going as a civilization, population, individuals, and an evolution. It's our destiny.
Feels that way, man. It's fascinating stuff. Alan, listen, congratulations on the book.
Thank
you
you.
the best of luck with this. I think it's fantastic. Congratulations on getting George and getting John involved. That's just awesome. Good for you. I hope it goes well. Everyone can see Alan at Contact in the Desert this June, and you can also find him, of course, at newrealities.com. Alan, is there anything else you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, that we are coming into a kind of a threshold of possibility. We are moving into a new circumstance, a new awareness. We're about to graduate, I think. I know that's kind of optimistic, but to a whole new level of what consciousness is. We've just been through this COVID crisis where nothing was normal anymore. It's going to get more that way. Normality, there's no return to that. And I think this is a preparation for the realities that are going to unfold with making contact, that we have to get used to the unusual, the strange, the bizarre, and welcome it, not to be in fear of the unknown. We're only projecting what we know onto the unknown. But there's something exciting happening in this next evolution as we start to, I think, be welcomed into the rest of the universe. When we start to grow up, when we end wars and we start to have compassion, and that's what this last year and a half has helped us do, have more compassion. And maybe that's what's put us at the threshold for new possibility. So making contact is an inside job. It starts with you, Ron, and everyone else. Go out into the world and project a possibility, especially the night sky. You can call these ships in. This is what people do. Stephen Greer, CV5s. Project love and possibility out there, and you may not see something physical, but you're going to feel something awesome.
Love it. Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I also really appreciate that. We'll catch you next time here on the Observation Deck. Have a good night.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. That's great.
Was that